Welcome to Shampered. I'm Chesal, and here we discuss all things 3D printing. I have a few bottles of nail polish in front of me, and they belong to my wife. And today's project is to make an organizer for these nail polish. There's a couple dozen more just outside the frame, so that makes it 30 bottles, give or take. There's 2.5 requirements for the finished product. A, it needs to look like this, and B, it needs to be short enough to fit in a regular sized drawer. And what defines the regular size drawer? I'll talk about that in a minute. And finally, this is something I came up with, but I have a feeling that she's gonna buy more bottles in the future, so we should make it in a way that it's expandable or modular. One thing to note is that these are from like 3 or 4 different sets, and the bottles don't look the same. They all have different shapes. And the same thing is true if my wife wants to buy a new set. The bottles are likely going to look different than what we have here. All right, let's talk about the rest on the computer. Okay, let me address the drawer size first. This is what we have in our house. It's a popular unit from IKEA, so maybe some of you have it too. The top compartments have a usable height of 18 centimeters, and the bottom ones are at 35. This cabinet is where my wife is going to store all the nail polish, so I'm basing my dimensions primarily off of this unit. But also, I want to make sure other people can use the design, and I suspect one of the most common places to store nail polish is going to be the top drawer of the bathroom vanity. And a quick Googling reveals that they're about 12 to 13 centimeters high on average, so that's what I'm going to shoot for. With that said, here's the design I've come up with. It's a symmetric design, so the back side looks the same as the front side. It's about 10 centimeters tall, so it should fit nicely in all of the drawers I've talked about previously. Lengthwise, unless there's a very oddly shaped bottles, we should be able to fit 8 15 ml bottles in each row, which gives us 16 bottles per crate. This was important to me because I only wanted to print 2 pieces for now. The flat part of the bottom extends a little bit further down, and this part snaps into the cutout at the top. Here's one thing I contemplated quite a bit, and that is if I wanted 2 rows on each side of the divider or just 1 row. And in the end, I landed on just 1 row because I like the idea of being able to see a bottle and grab it right away instead of having to reach to the second row in the back and trying to dig a bottle out of there. Speaking of easy access, I've noticed all of the bottles that I measured were 70 millimeters tall. And given that I have products from different brands, there's a good chance that this is a universal height, or at least a very common height for this type of product. Which is why I made the outer pony wall to be 25 millimeters in height. That is taller than the center of gravity for all of these bottles, so it's not so easy for them to fall out while being carried. And this is also related to why I made this whole unit 10 centimeters tall. And that's because all the bottles come up to about this point, and that leaves the handle clear of any obstructions. And here's one more thing I wanted to mention in regards to the height. The 3 centimeter gap at the top is especially important when multiple units are stacked together, because that gives the user the space to stick their finger in, tilt the bottle they want, and take it out of the box without unloading anything above. If the crate was a little shorter, or if the pony wall was a little taller, that would not have been possible. And the final thing is that this handle is about 100 millimeters in length. And I have very little faith/respect for my printer's bridging capabilities. And I knew this was going to be a problem area if I printed in one piece. So what I've done is I made this a separate piece. I can print this ahead of time before starting the print of the main body and insert it in the middle of the print by pausing at the right layer. I'll try and demonstrate it in a later part of the video. Here's a closer look at that little handle piece where it meets the rest of the body. This is a cross-sectional view and we're looking top down. So this joint here typically would be a square joint shaped like this, which would have required use of support. So I made it triangular and 45 degrees to avoid using any supports, which I really like. And a similar consideration was applied here. I applied a initial chamfer and then a fillet only on this side to avoid any extreme overhang. So this piece can be printed flat on the build plate without using any supports. So that's good. And I want to point out that this gap is extremely small. I usually do like 0.2 mil tolerance when I have pieces that fit together. But in this case, I kept it to around 0.05 and 0.07. And that's because, let me zoom out a little bit more. If we look at the cross section of this whole piece, we have so much more mass over here and a lot more concentration of plastic, meaning as the plastic cools, it's going to shrink in this direction. So from right to the left. As a result, this gap is going to open quite a bit. So if I used a tolerance value of 0.2 like I normally do, it would be a very loose fit, or possibly the handle would just fall out. So that's why I kept this tolerance to a very small value, knowing that this gap is going to open a lot. Okay, so I think those are all of the things I wanted to mention before starting the print job. So let's start the print job. Looks pretty good. Looks like I can fit 8 bottles on each side, which is what we expected. So good to see. Yeah, I spoke so much on the computer, I don't have much to say. Let's print the second piece to see if we can properly stack them together. All right, the second unit is all done as well, and they stack without any issues. I'll make the file available for download for free if anyone's interested in trying, and I hope you got something out of this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.